Hello, it's Amy. I'm here once again with the Journal of Emily Shore. And as you can see, my Christmas tree is up. So I'm filming in front of that. And I've chosen to dim the lights and let the tree provide some light here. But we are on page 297 of the Journal of Emily Shore. Beginning with an entry at fungi or funchao. I think there might be a typo here because the heading at the top of the page has an L at the end, whereas the subheading in the center of the page appears to have an I. But it looks like it could be partly faded or partly done wrong. But moving on. We are in the year 1838. It is December. They have just arrived in Madeira. It was about 12:30 when the boat touched the shore and was dragged up the black shingles by the bare-legged, copper-coloured Portuguese. Everything round us wore a strange and foreign appearance. The dark complexions and costumes of the Portuguese, the sound of a strange language on every side, the odd-looking boats and numbers of horses, an absence of wheeled carriages, the houses with their high turrets, and above all, the grand mountain. We began scrambling up the beach, and I was actually able to walk all the way to the Houghton's house. It is not above 5 minutes' distance from the shore, but the streets are steep and fatiguing. We passed through the public walk, which is planted with trees, and by the gates of the cathedral. It is a very narrow street, and we stopped at a door of Messrs. Houghton and Burnet. We entered a small, dark stone hall, which contained some empty casks, and a flight of very prison-like stone stairs. The rest of the party walked up first, and 2 Portuguese men-servants carried me up in a chair, so that I was landed without fatigue in a very handsome suite of rooms. Then we came to the dining room. They threw open the Venetian blinds, and with delighted astonishment we looked down on a garden crowded with the richest green foliage, which, amidst the blaze of Madeira sunlight in December, looked as fresh as a cool wood in an English July. I do not think any garden was ever so charming in my eyes. It was so surprising and unexpected. It was a story below us, so we looked down on a carpet of vines covering the trellis work that shaded the walks. Vines still in leaf, though they began to show symptoms of autumnal brown. Orange trees, 5 and 20 feet in height, loaded with golden fruit. Light bamboos, not baboons. Light bamboos, bananas with their broad fringed leaves, thick leafy coffee trees forming an impenetrable and evergreen shade, camellias of enormous size, China roses still in bloom, all combined in a completely foreign picture different from anything I ever saw. December 23rd, Sunday. Our first Sunday in Madeira, Mamma and Elle went to the English church, which I did not attempt to do. Indeed, I was too languid to exert myself much anyway. Towards the evening it was proposed to me to go into the garden, and I did so and was much pleased with it. The only way is through the kitchen premises, down flights of damp stone steps and under stone archways. For everything in Funchal is stone. And so it must be with an L rather than with an I, as I saw there. Everything in Funchal is stone, even to the huge kitchen fireplace, which is formed of immense slabs of stone in a long row. The garden is much neglected at present, but still it is a sweet spot and delightfully fragrant. It is partly laid out in walks covered with trellis work, which is supported by stone pillars. The trellis is covered with vines, and the pillars are festooned with the thickest luxuriance of creepers. The garden is so entirely shut in and sunk so low down amongst the high mossy hedges, and so covered with the shade of its own foliage, that plants do not flourish well in it. And a little streamlet, which runs all around, with a murmur which is heard in every part, helps to make it very damp and cool. Even now there are numerous flowers, especially the beautiful scarlet salvia, which almost dazzles one. December 24th, Monday. It is useless to make any remarks on the weather. Every day is alike, clear, bright, and warm. If any difference is perceptible, it is that it becomes finer the nearer we are to Christmas. Every morning, when we meet in the breakfast room, we stand out in the balcony admiring the orange trees in the garden below and the unclouded sunshine all around. We are not yet accustomed to the foreign appearance presented by everything that meets our eyes, but there is a sound which to me brings back England at once, and that is the sweet song of the robin, which I hear from the window every day. I have also seen a chaffinch. I quite forgot to mention yesterday that we made an excursion up to the turret, whither Mr. H. escorted us. It is 6 stories from the ground, and I made the ascent with much difficulty. But all the toil was well repaid when we reached the top, and from a little square chamber with a window on every side and a balcony all around, we looked out on one of the finest views I have ever seen. Funchal and its gardens and turrets, the sea and with the shipping, and the blue desertas and the magnificent rocky mountain on 3 sides of us, rent into ravines and sprinkled with lovely villas, composed the picture. The town is picturesque from its foreign appearance, but it must be confessed that, though of stone, the houses are without exception mean and shabby in exterior. The balcony was filled with enormous pumpkins drying in the sun. These are the principal food of Portuguese servants. I have not mentioned guavas amongst the new fruit to which we have been introduced. They look like apples, but contain a sweet red pulp full of hard seeds, which I believe are very unwholesome. We had a dish of milho at breakfast. This is made of Indian corn and baked or fried in slices, which are a very light, pleasant pudding. It is eaten with sugar. While we were at luncheon today, arrived a common Portuguese present at Christmas, to wit, a tray of various sweet cakes made by the nuns, who seem to be cake makers and confectioners general to the whole island. The English place of interment to which we next went is at some little distance from the church. I should say places of interment, one belonging to the residents, one to the visitors. We first went into the former, a small gloomy spot, with straight walks and rows of cypress enclosed with walls which are covered with half-effaced inscriptions. The stone coffin-shaped tombstones are overgrown with grass and straggling flowering plants. Thence we went to the other burying ground, which is much larger and has all the appearance of a beautiful garden, with winding walks enclosed between the thickest hedges of geranium, 4 or 5 feet high, and so solid and massy that they appear quite different plants from the stunted and comparatively leafless specimens we see in England. It was with a melancholy feeling that I gazed round this silent cemetery, where so many early blossoms, nipped by a colder climate, were mouldering away, so many who had come too late to recover, and either perished here, far away from their kindred, or faded under the eyes of anxious friends who had vainly hoped to see them revive again. I felt too, as I looked at the crowded tombs, that my own might, not long hence, be amongst them. And here shall I be laid to rest at last, I thought. It is the first time any such idea has crossed my mind in any burial ground. What greatly enhances the melancholy appearance of this one is the circumstance that almost all the inscriptions are partly, some entirely effaced. That is, the paint or ink has disappeared, whether owing to the dampness of climate or to bad execution, I do not know. And we're 9 minutes in, so we'll leave it at that for today. When we return with tomorrow's reading, we will read her entry for Christmas Day, 1838.